Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 8 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the last episode, I got my butt kicked by this really interesting CALYREX Shadow team. It features FLING with two different Pokemon, FLING Petaya Whimsicott, and FLING Choice Scarf Tapu Lele with Weakness Policy CALYREX. The idea is that both Whimsicott and the Tapu Lele will be faster than CALYREX. The CALYREX here is a little bit bulkier, and as a result, you can outspeed with your Whimsicott Lele. You FLING to activate that weakness policy, and then just get a really powerful Astral Barrage or Expanding Force off. If you lead Lele CALYREX, your opponent doesn't have anything that outspeeds either of those two Pokemon, you can just get a +2 Expanding Force off in Psychic Terrain, which is really, really, strong. Similarly, with Whimsicott, you can get CALYREX to +3 special attack, since Petaya Berry also gives you a special attack boost. Another cool thing to note is that CALYREX could actually get to +5 special attack in just one turn through Petaya Berry, Weakness Policy, and potentially picking up a double KO on the first turn. If that happens, the game is probably just over immediately. You just are so far ahead, I think it's nearly impossible to come back from a turn like that. So if we could pull that combo off, that would be really, really sick. But yeah, we went up against this yesterday, and our opponent had the team information after the battle was over, so we were able to see the spreads and the team in general. And so thank you to Hyde or Heed for creating this team in-game. They're a viewer, and they were kind enough to turn this into a rental and a paste in just under a day as well. So seriously, huge credits to them for turning this into a team so we can try it out. Another thing to talk about here is the Regieleki plus Landorus combination. Because, of course, the main mode of this team is the Psychic stuff, and especially CALYREX, but Landorus and Eleki are actually really critical to this team's success as well, because often you're actually going to Dynamax the Landorus rather than Dynamax CALYREX. The CALYREX on this team thrives off spread attacks in Astral Barrage and Expanding Force, so a lot of the times you actually don't want to Dynamax it, and rather Dynamax Landorus instead. So with Regieleki and Landorus, you have Screech on the Regieleki, and you can combo that Screech into a max move from Landorus and just do a ton of damage, if not pick up a one-hit KO. Landorus is a little bit bulkier with this spread. It's not max speed, so you'd be a little bit slower than some of the more common Pokemon, but after a max Airstream, you should outspeed everything. The other cool thing is that it has max Darkness, right? So the max Darkness here can lower your opponent's special defense. That's really valuable because if you look at the rest of the team, hey, they're all special attackers. So Regieleki, Landorus, also a viable lead. There's so many lead options with this team, which I think is really neat about it. Whimsicott CALYREX, Tapu Lele CALYREX, Entei CALYREX, Regieleki, Landorus feel like 4 of the stronger combinations, but a lot of things that you can go for with this team. Another cool thing to note is that the Whimsicott here has Trick Room. I talked about this when we went up against this team yesterday, but Trick Room is important for this team because if it doesn't have great ways to actually deny Trick Room from the opposing end, right? So basically, by running Trick Room on this Whimsicott, you say, hey, if you get your Trick Room up, then I can just reverse it immediately on turn 1. Most Trick Room setters are also weak to CALYREX, so you could lead something like Whimsicott CALYREX, Astral Barrage, and Trick Room on the first turn, and then KO the Trick Room user the subsequent turn with another Astral Barrage. If Trick Room goes up against this team and stays up, you'll probably lose, which is why the Trick Room on the Whimsicott set here is really, really valuable. So, a lot of cool components to this team, and once again, huge thank you and credits to the opponent that we played against yesterday. I do think, like in VGC, you shouldn't be afraid to adapt ideas, especially against, after playing against certain people and certain teams. And I think losing is often cool because you can really see what strategies potentially can be really, really strong. So, we saw this team yesterday. I thought it was really interesting. Wanted to give it a go. So once again, thank you to Hyde for turning this into a rental and a paste down in the description below. And let's get started with today's episode. Thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what you think the cutest Pokemon is down in the comment section below. Let's get started. Alright, getting into the first game today. We are up against Tornadus Kyogre stuff. So opposing Tailwind's definitely a little bit scary. They have an Incineroar, so, CALYREX obviously has to be a little bit careful about Incin. I think AV Thundurus is really good here, but Raichu is going to be the main problem. They don't have terrain control, though, which is good for us, other than max overgrowth from Kartana. So they have Fake Out. Should respect Tornadus Kyogre as a lead. The Screech stuff here is really interesting, because I'm thinking we go with Eleki, and there's so many things we could go with here. Whimsicott, Lele CALYREX is tempting. Because the thing here is, you can't just lead Tornadus Kyogre. I guess you could lead Tornadus Kyogre. But, Whimsicott Thundurus feels decent for me. I just really want to bring Eleki here. But I think I should try to match my opponent's Tailwind, because if I do, then I'll just outspeed them, right? So I'm thinking it's Whimsicott, Thundurus, Lele, CALYREX. I want to bring Eleki here, but it just doesn't fit super well. I could see Tornadus Kyogre lead, though, and then you switch Tornadus out into Raichu. That's definitely a possibility, isn't it? Actually, I think that's a really good option from their end. But then I could just Tailwind, and then Thundurus... Okay. I'm going to try this out. The thing about this team is you want to identify when you can safely go with, like, Whimsicott CALYREX lead or Lele CALYREX lead. And in this game, it doesn't feel great because the thing about CALYREX is, like, you really want to use it when you can outspeed your opponent. And in this matchup, my opponent has multiple Pokemon that outspeed CALYREX if Tailwind are up. So in order to match that, okay, so they are going to go Tornadus Kyogre. I really think you switch out Tornadus into Raichu turn 1 and then max Kyogre maybe. I have Max Darkness here, which I think is really valuable. Maybe you just attack anyway, because like you like say, hey, my opponent's gonna respect me. That's not what we want to go for. I want to go for Tailwind. And I honestly like the idea of Max Darkness in this position into Kyogre. It gets me a little bit of damage off, but more importantly, it builds up those special defense drops. And like I said, I think Tornadus switching out into Raichu is a possibility. They're not going to make the switch here, though, so good move on their end. Kyogre could definitely just protect here as well. But the thing that I really like about Thundurus on this team is it's such a good partner with that CALYREX Shadow. Brutal Swing could actually be interesting as a replacement over Crunch to activate policy on the CALYREX as well. Okay, they're actually going to just Dynamax Kyogre. I'm okay with that. I mean, if we trade Tailwind, so be it. I get a little bit of damage off, and more importantly, I get a special defense drop onto that thing. But, yeah, nice play by my opponent turn 1. They didn't make the switch into Raichu. So this is kind of a greedy play. It's high risk, high reward. Because well, I guess it's not super high risk because you're not fainting from like a Max Lightning anyway, I suppose. But we'll get Tailwind off, which is good for us. They Tailwind as well. So I don't know, if I went Max Lightning onto Kyogre, would we be in a better spot? Maybe, but the thing is I still get a little bit of damage off with Max Darkness, and now I get the CALYREX in, right? Which can just go for... That's really good damage, actually. Like, I feel like another Max Darkness and Astral Barrage should just KO Kyogre. Well, maybe not. Kyogre's special defense is really good. And they go for Geyser. Okay, that works for me. Because we're Assault Vest here, so we'll survive. It's a lot of damage, though. Definitely a lot of damage. Okay. Honestly, here, I'm going to double up onto Tornadus with the Moonblast and another Max Darkness. Because that should KO Tornadus or anything it switches out into. I guess other than Incineroar. But the thing is, we'll get another special defense drop onto Kyogre. And wow, they just don't protect Kyogre or switch out into Raichu again, so... Ooh. Icy Wind to lower my speed. That does activate Defiant, though. But you'll probably just knock out Thundurus beforehand, right? That makes sense. That's why they didn't switch this turn. And yeah, they're going to go for a Geyser. Okay, so good use of their Kyogre in this match. Very good use of their Kyogre. Being slower with Whimsicott is a big problem for us right now, right? I have Scarf Lele in the back, which is a little bit helpful here. Okay, actually, I like bringing out Scarf Lele right now. Let's get that Psychic Terrain up. Let's switch Whimsicott out into the CALYREX. Okay, another question I have here is whether or not we can just KO. With Psychic. Is that -1 Spadef and Terrain is up? I don't think so, though. I wouldn't count on it. Because I want to play towards the CALYREX endgame here. So I want to switch Whimsicott out into CALYREX. You know, I think they're going to knock out Tapu Lele in this position. Just go for a Psychic to KO the Tornadus. I don't know. I don't think you ever really need to target the Whimsicott in this position. So then what I've set myself up for is, hey, my opponent's Dynamax is over, my Dynamax is over. They're up one Pokemon, but Terrain is up. They can't control the Terrain, and I outspeed with Whimsicott and my CALYREX, so then I can just go for Fling, Astral Barrage. And I think that just cleans up against my opponent's entire team. The only thing I'm nervous about is the potential Incineroar in the back. So... I didn't really get that much mileage out of Thundurus, and this is why like having a Raichu on my opponent's team is great, right? Because if they didn't have Raichu, of course I would have been a lot more willing to just target Kyogre with Max Lightning on turn 1. So, yep, they go for the bait, they target the Tapu Lele, get the knockout there. But that's okay, because now I've reset the speed drop on Whimsicott. You do have to be very careful about forgetting about speed boost with this team. I was playing a practice game earlier, and I had given like CALYREX a speed boost via Max Airstream earlier, and then I tried to go for the Fling strategy, but then the Fling strategy just didn't work. So don't like fall into traps like that. That could be scary. I don't even know if we need a Fling here, because it depends on your item on the Raichu. I think AV is more likely. Tailwind is up on both ends. I think I'm just going to go for Astral Barrage here. Oh, actually, is it better to Astral Barrage or Expanding Force? I think it's Expanding Force, right? I want to just go for Fling and Expanding Force. My only fear is Sash Raichu, you protect Kyogre, and you nuzzle into CALYREX. Oh, but then I can just Tailwind next turn anyway. Yeah, so this is the perfect setup for Fling. Okay, Kyogre does protect. So we could have gone for Moonblast plus Expanding Force into Raichu, but if you're AV here and not Focus Sash, I think this is just a game-winning play right now. And even if you do have Nuzzle and your Focus Sash and you Nuzzle into CALYREX, it's still not the end of the world. Because like I said, I can Tailwind. The only fear is basically being having to deal with full para turns in subsequent turns. Okay, so we'll get Expanding Force off. +3, Psychic Terrain boosted. Let's see if you're Assault Vest or Focus Sash on Raichu right now. Ah, it is Sashed. Okay. That's not a super big surprise, honestly. Oh, they actually go for Electro Web rather than Nuzzle. So that's fine by me because I still have Tailwind up. This is why I wanted to conserve Whimsicott. If Whimsicott can get 2 Tailwinds up in a game, it's often just going to be so much that your opponent can't deal with it at all. So their Tailwind's over, ours is over, but we just set up another Tailwind now. It's better to go for Astral Barrage at this point because we're at +3 with CALYREX already. Yeah. So let's just Astral Barrage. Mainly because it covers for an Incineroar switch in right now. We could still lose the Incineroar in the back. And we just set up another Tailwind. And we should be good to go. We should be good to go. This should just be a double knockout, and don't think anything in the back can really deal with both of these Pokemon. So, beautiful. We got exactly what we wanted off in this game, which was this combination, right? My Dynamax was probably not the best, but I do think it's important to respect the Raichu in a game like this, and the Max Darkness early just sets me up for dealing with Kyogre in the end game. So this is what I mean, actually. We actually ended up getting CALYREX to +5 special attack in one turn, which is awesome. And Psychic Terrain is so important with this team because Fake Out will really stop a lot of your setups, and so this is why, having both Indeedee and Lele is really valuable. And Instant is going to be my opponent's last one, okay. I wonder how much a +5 single target Astral Barrage does. Is there any reason to... I could Protect here and then Moonblast? No, but since Whimsicott attacks first anyway, yeah. It's just scary because it could be AV. Actually, isn't Pollen Puff just stronger? Let's see. Astral Barrage has Stab. Oh, is it the same? I think we can just Moonblast, and I want to see how much Astral Barrage does here. It's +5. Single target. Let's see. I just think Assault Vest is probably on the Instant here. No, that doesn't look like AV. Okay, so this should KO. Nice. Sick. Beautiful. We actually ended up getting CALYREX to +6 in just 2 turns. So that's what you can do with this CALYREX. Well, I guess it doesn't actually get the boost here in the end, but yeah, this is the setup that you want to aim for. I think with this CALYREX, it is often actually better to not Dynamax it. So that's why I wanted to max Thundurus in the early game. AV Thundurus is really good because it helped me survive against Kyogre, right? Let's say I just let Tapu Lele CALYREX or Whimsicott CALYREX. How in the world am I getting through Kyogre in the early game? The answer is that I'm not. So, one thing that you want to consider with this team is ask your... you can Dynamax CALYREX, of course, right? But you want to Dynamax it if you can, one-shot things from your opponent's end. Against the Tornadus Kyogre lead, that's just not happening. We run into another Tailwind team here, so we do have to be careful, although CALYREX is pretty good coverage here, although it has to worry about Dark Urshifu for sure. As well as Aleki with Electro Web. Now, with Solgaleo, you're going to, see weakness policy set up, so either Bulldoze from Entei into Solgaleo or Sucker Punch from Grimmsnarl. Unfortunately, despite having Psychic Terrain, you can't bypass, your opponent can still self-target with Sucker Punch, even if Psychic Terrain is up. So this is interesting because we actually probably should Dynamax CALYREX in this game. I don't mind them getting weakness policy off because I have CALYREX. So I kind of want to go with Whimsicott, Aleki, with then Lele and CALYREX in the back. This gives me 2 ways to set up CALYREX because CALYREX is the primary and the only carry here, right? I like this because I could potentially Electro Web, I can Volt Switch, I can T-Bolt. Well, actually, I guess Webs isn't that valuable because I can't lower Solgaleo speed. But the thing is, I don't know if my opponent is just willing to lead Solgaleo immediately into my team. So, I'm down to go with Whimsicott, Eleki, Lele, CALYREX in this game, I think. I don't like Thundurus very much because my opponent's main max option is Solgaleo. I think Solgaleo maxes like 95% plus of times with that team, right? Maybe you can Dynamax Entei, Eleki, and Urshifu, but that team is so clearly built around Solgaleo, right? You have 2 ways to activate Weakness Policy. Almost every Solgaleo right now in the format is Weakness Policy, so yeah. They're going to go with Entei Grimmsnarl. Okay, great. This is what I was hoping for, right? If I just lead the CALYREX immediately here, I don't know. It doesn't feel great because I'm not sure I can actually pick up 1-hit KOs immediately. Although Lele plus CALYREX honestly maybe wouldn't have been terrible here. Well, I guess you could just go for Fake Out onto Whimsicott and then Sacred Fire. So I could switch out into Lele, bypass that. Do I even need a Tailwind? I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to Moonblast into this thing, switch Eleki out into Lele, and then just... I don't think I need Tailwind here. Here's what I'm going for. I switch Eleki out, I get the Lele in, so you can't go for Fake Out this turn. I get Moonblast off for damage onto the Grimmsnarl, and then if you knock out the Whimsicott, I bring out CALYREX and then just go for Fling and Astral Barrage. I think that works here. Oh, they go for Trick, even better. Nice. It's Scarf Entei? Oh. With Eruption? Did not see that one coming. I'm gonna bring out Eleki here because I'm not sure you outspeed me with Scarf Entei. So what I can do is just Electro Web and Psychic, but oh. I gotta say that I guess that's the one reason to Tailwind. I never considered Scarf Entei. Wow. I want to Electro Web and Psychic in this position, I think. We'll probably lose the game off. I mean, it's still potentially winnable, but if you're my opponent, you should just Spirit Break Tapu Lele right now. Okay, they don't switch out, so I think I can maybe knock out Entei here at least. We could definitely still win the game with CALYREX, Shadow, and Eleki, by the way. So this is still far from over. I did not see that turn 1 coming at all. At all. I don't think I've seen Eruption Entei at all until today, actually, so it wasn't even an option I considered. Does Lele faint here? It does not. I kind of wanted it to faint here, I think. Because now you can bring in Grimmsnarl, or sorry, you can bring out Solgaleo, and you can max Rockfall my side. You can just Sucker Punch max Rockfall into Eleki. Yeah, that's really bad. Surviving there is actually so bad for us. That's okay. Oh, it's not okay. I don't have Protect on this thing. Oh, no, 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 no. That's not good. Okay, maybe I hope you max Rockfall. I switch Lele out so that I can go for the Fling. I think that's the play. We're going to switch Lele out here. We are going to Thunderbolt into Solgaleo. Switch Lele out into CALYREX and hope for a CALYREX sweep here. Because CALYREX definitely just beats everything after Solgaleo faints, right? Maybe I didn't even need to switch because I have Max Phantasm anyway? Also, I guess the Lele switch here is really obvious, so maybe you do just target the Lele. But I'm thinking from my opponent's perspective, Sucker Punch, Rockfall makes a lot of sense. But if they end up like Sucker Punch Steel Spiking into the Lele slot, it's just over. Let's see. Man, that Eruption's really cool, though. Like, I felt like this was a really good matchup for us. Oh, they don't Sucker Punch. Huh. Okay, they Quake. That's fine if you're targeting the Eleki slot. Okay, that's fine. That is more than... I'll happily take that. I'll probably eat up a Spirit Break here onto the CALYREX, but it's okay. Interesting they didn't Sucker Punch. I thought Sucker Punch Rockfall would have been really solid there. This targets Lele. Okay, yeah. So while it's not great to be at -1 special attack, I'll honestly take this. I think this is not bad. 2 turns of Psychic Terrain. I still have Fling. I think here I want to Thunderbolt into the Grimmsnarl and Protect. Unless T-Bolt Phantasm KO Solgaleo, but I wouldn't count on that. I could also see Solgaleo protecting. I don't know. It only is at +1. I think Thunderbolt Phantasm actually might just KO Solgaleo here, so I'm actually just going to max. Maybe Solgaleo max guards. But the thing is that you can't one-shot my CALYREX right now. Man, my laptop fan is really loud right now, so hopefully it's not too distracting. Apologies if it is. It's an intense game, though. Man, Scarf Eruption Entei is really cool. I like that a lot, too, because it's going to be Bulldoze with Solgaleo. So, yeah. Scarf just allows you to outspeed pretty much everything. Okay, they don't protect with Solgaleo. It's pretty good damage. I don't know if -1 Phantasm does it here. Oh, actually, wait, I'll activate Weakness Policy if it doesn't KO. I should have thought about that. I think the better play was to just protect CALYREX and then get the free switch it into Lele. Because now you'll probably just KO my CALYREX with the Steel Spike or a Quake. If we can hang on to a Quake, we can definitely still win. Okay, they Steel Spike. Yeah, that was bad. And I faint. Okay, I shouldn't have gambled off trying to get the KO there. I think it would have been better to just protect and sacrifice the CALYREX, get Lele in, and then fling Astral Barrage. I just got a little bit nervous because I was like, they could Max Quake here for another special defense boost. So, unfortunately, we don't get the KO onto Solgaleo, but I think I definitely could have played a little bit better in this game anyway. But that's okay. I honestly think my opponent played really well. I mean, Scarf Eruption I just had never seen before, so that's something now that I'm a little bit more aware of. So how would I have played this differently? I think I would like leading Whimsicott Lele. I do like the idea of Tailwinding. Yeah, we can Shadow Ball. Sliver of HP in the end. I think I just didn't utilize my CALYREX win condition well enough here, because CALYREX is amazing into my opponent's team. So, yeah. I think the play I liked the most would have been protecting last turn. Let them Steel Spike into me, get a Thunderbolt, sacrifice a Lecky. Maybe they double up into that position. If they doubled up into my CALYREX there, then I could just T-Bolt Phantasm the next turn. Because CALYREX should win this game if I'm actually able to pick up a knockout onto my opponent's Dynamax Pokemon. But I wasn't able to knock out my opponent's Dynamax Pokemon, so... Let's see, Magnet Lecky, Policy Solgaleo, Wide Guard and Psychic Fang is interesting. Focus Sash Whimsicott, Banded Urshifu. Yeah, Scarf Entei, that was just the one thing I was not expecting there. And then Lagging Tail. They didn't even have Sucker Punch. Ouch. That explains why. Alright, getting into our next match here. We're up against Tailwind Sun stuff. Urshifu is probably the scariest thing to see, but it's also scary because their Venusaur can outspeed us, especially if you have both the Sun and the Tailwind up. So that's one thing to watch out for. Groudon Venusaur is scary, but we have Whimsicott Lele. Whimsicott, like... Psychic in general looks really good into my opponent's team. They also don't have great terrain control, which maybe works in our favor here. I think Whimsicott CALYREX you can actually make a good argument for in this game. Lele, and then... I feel like Indeedee just for redirection is pretty valuable here. Because Urshifu's the main threat, so if I just protect CALYREX, I think we just played fully around CALYREX in this game. The only tricky thing is I actually think Thundurus is a really good bring in this game as well. Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I consider maybe I should have just brought it, because they don't actually have super good damage output into it, and with the Salt Vest, like, your main max options are what? Charizard, Venusaur, Landorus. I think you could definitely make an argument for Thundurus over something like Indeedee here. Because the problem with how I selected my Pokemon in Team Preview here is that I'm basically putting all my eggs in the CALYREX basket. And it's also, like, weird, right? Because it's like, okay, am I going to Dynamax CALYREX? Am I not? So... I think AV Thundurus may have been a smarter bring here over probably Indeedee, I would say. I think one combo we could have gone with, like, Whimsicott Thundurus lead with the CALYREX and the Lele in the back. I think that's another combo of 4 that we could have gone with. So, I mean, once again, that's why VGC is interesting, right? Because, like, there's so much that you can do before the battle even starts, just in terms of team preview, and that can go a long way in determining, you know, whether or not you win. Okay, we see Groudon and Urshifu. There's no way you just Sucker Punch here, right? You could Sucker Punch if you're Focus Sashed. What are the odds it's Scarf Urshifu, too? Honestly, I think it's fine to just Moonblast into Urshifu turn 1, switch CALYREX out into Lele. I mean, Urshifu could protect here. I could also, of course, just Moonblast and Astral Barrage. I kind of want to just go for that, because it covers for Urshifu protecting. I guess you could just max Groudon, though. I should have thought about that. If you just max Groudon... Okay, yeah, they don't max Groudon. I don't like my play turn 1 here. It's going to work out, but like I said, I think... Had I just let Thundurus here, it feels like we kind of just win. Now, I think we're probably... I mean, this is such a good turn 1 for us, because in the end, they didn't Sucker Punch or Protect. Like, I felt like Sucker Punch is really greedy, right? Because, like... You know, I have Tapu Lele as a switch-in. But I think Sucker Punch actually makes some... Well... Yeah, I mean, that's where I think the best play may have been to switch CALYREX out into Lele and then Moonblast. I go for Precipice Blades, but I don't know. I don't think my opponent can come back from this now. Yeah, they don't crit CALYREX. I mean, the only problem, I guess, is that CALYREX has taken a lot of damage, but we're ready. I don't even necessarily need a Tailwind. They bring out Landorus. Are you going to be Scarfed here? We have Lele in the back. I should cover for Scarf Landorus, right? Because the other play I want to go for is just the Fling. I don't know, Scarf Landorus is so rare these days. And it doesn't make much sense on my opponent's team comp either. I guess there is the Charizard, but kind of want to just go for Fling Astral Barrage here. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for that. Probably Dynamax Landorus. And if you Dynamax, I mean, we get to +4 Astral Barrage. So, I mean, I guess you could still max Groudon here, but yeah, it's going to be max Landorus. I do think Thundurus was a better lead here, because I could have just gone Tailwind, max Airstream turn 1, and then start max Darknessing to lower my opponent's special defense for CALYREX to come in. So, I think it was a mistake to not bring Thundurus in this game. We'll see if it actually ends up mattering. Groudon protects, that's fine. So, which means that Landorus can only pick up 1 KO here, but like the downside is that if I don't pick up this KO, I could still lose the game, right? Because I'm playing with Whimsicott, Lele, and Indeedee in the back. So, I wanted to play like a protect the CALYREX kind of game here, but I don't know if it actually made that much sense. Okay, so we'll get the boost off. Let's see, Astral Barrage. +4. If they're a Solvest, they might survive this though, so I don't know. Yeah, they're actually able to hang on. Okay. And they're going to go for a max Airstream here onto CALYREX. But I think that's fine, because now I just bring out... Who might actually Dynamax Indeedee or Tapu Lele in this game. Actually, probably should max Lele, shouldn't I? Ah, it's interesting. Yeah, it was Citrus Groudon, and the Citrus didn't go off because of our ability. Yeah, I think we actually do need to max Lele now. So that is a Solvest Landorus. Good to confirm that. And I think here we can just go for Tailwind and then max Psychic. KO the Landorus. Sure, you can Precipice Blades, but that's not really that much of an issue. Could be interesting if you switch Groudon out into Venusaur right now. But yeah, let's just Tailwind, max this thing, and Mindstorm into Landorus. So this is why I was saying, like, Thundurus would have been a better bring here. And once again, it's always good to just analyze your games turn by turn. Like, I guess while you're playing the match, maybe you don't need to be thinking about it as much, but the reason why I think about it like the way I do is because so many VGC tournaments are best of 3, so it is really valuable often to start thinking about what adjustments you can make immediately while you're playing the game, you know, in a best of 3 set. So I'm pretty sure Psychic Terrain boosted max Psychic should KO the Landorus, and then I think Lele should just one-shot the other Pokemon on my opponent's team, but yeah. I mean, Dark-type Pokemon are a tough matchup for this team, right? So you have to play smartly around them, and I don't like my turn 1 play very much. It worked out. Kind of just had a feeling they wouldn't go for Sucker Punch there, but you don't want to win off a feeling, right? We actually dodged Precipice Plays there, which is very fortunate. Now, that wouldn't have KO'd post-Dynamax, but yeah, if you get a crit there, things could look a little bit scary. Charizard's our last one, so yeah, this should be over at this point. Let's see, I think we just Moonblast here into Groudon. I'd be shocked if Max Mindstorm and Terrain didn't one-shot Charizard. And if it doesn't, they should feign from Life Orb plus Solar Power, so yeah. Let's see if they protect here. They don't protect either, actually. Okay, it's fine by me. Indeedee at this point with Expanding Force is also looking pretty good for us in this endgame. So we'll get the Mindstorm off. Nice. Yep. So you can Dynamax Lele with this team, right? We were in a scenario where because we gave up... Did they miss Precipice Blaze on Lele again? No, this time on Whimsicott. That's the scary thing about press displays. It's such a good attack, but man, its accuracy is not amazing. So it is a little bit scary to use that multiple times, right? So I feel like we had a good lead turn 1. You know, we were able to get the boost onto CALYREX again, but this time around we didn't fully sweep through. And yeah, I mean, Urshifu's lead was really scary. Fortunately, we managed to bypass on the first turn. The thing about this CALYREX is this team is interesting, right? Because like if my opponent just Sucker Punches CALYREX, I'd probably lose there. But Sucker Punch is just such a high variance play. Because like if I just switch into Lele there, right, or Indeedee, it's tough. However, I actually think Sucker Punch makes sense for my opponent because you're Focus Sash, and if I switch, you'll at least survive the turn, right? So yeah. I kind of just made an aggressive call turn 1. I don't like that too much, and you don't want to put yourself in positions like that on turn 1 typically, I think. So if I were to replay this, I would just go with Thundurus instead. I think I'd lead Whimsicott Thundurus and have Lele CALYREX in the back, because like I don't think Indeedee was actually that important for us. The idea of it was to redirect attacks away from CALYREX, but the only attack we really need to redirect away is going to be that Urshifu like Wicked Blow anyway. So do we really need to redirect anything away from it? Probably not, I think. So Whimsicott, Thundurus, Lele, and CALYREX I think is the adjustment to make in that one. But that was a quick one, so let's play a 4th match here. Alright, last game of the day, and this just screams a Thundurus game to me, honestly. Whimsicott, Thundurus. We just Tailwind. Yeah, I mean, they have nothing against Thundurus here, honestly. So then CALYREX, and then I think Lele in the back for the FLING shenanigans here. But I think Thundurus is just such a good max option against their entire team that there's not very much that they can do. One thing that I'll note with this Thundurus is that it is slow. I think actually if I were to remake the team, I would just do Assault Vest Thundurus with max speed, max attack. I think slow Thundurus actually really hurts you because there's so many Pokemon from like the base, you know, 90 to 110 speed range that you do want to outspeed. So yeah, that's personal preference though. But it did come into play in a bunch of the practice games that I had while playing with this team. So just something to note. Yeah, this team is interesting because it can either stomp through very quickly, but you have to play very smartly with how you manage your Thundurus and your CALYREX. I think one mistake that I made a lot in my practice games is that I kept just losing Thundurus, or I kept not bringing Thundurus for some reason. Like I'd get baited. I'm like, oh, Whimsicott, Lele, Indeedee, and CALYREX, but I think Thundurus and CALYREX pretty much always come out. You just need to find the best supporting cast for it. So they go with Talonflame plus Kyogre. I mean, I think this is just Tailwind Max Lightning turn 1. Oh wait, hold on. Talonflame can outspeed us and just go for like Brave Bird. That could be really interesting, actually. But I have Lele in the back. You know what I like doing here? Honestly, I like the idea of max Airstreaming into Kyogre and then switching out into Tapu Lele. Or I could just switch. I mean, our Thundurus is just in a really good spot, right? You probably max the Kyogre. Yeah, I'm honestly just going to go for Airstream here. Wait, no, that doesn't make sense, though. I need to match their Tailwind. So maybe Thundurus goes out into Lele, gets the Psychic Terrain up, so then you can't block me from Tailwinding. Yeah, I think that's better. Well, because, like, Talonflame here could just Brave Bird into Whimsicott, right? You probably Tailwind, because you don't know that I'm not Focus Sashed. Unless you've seen this team. Maybe you've seen this team. Okay, they max Kyogre. Yeah, that's fine with me. Actually, it could be max Talonflame, but that is the Aqua Ball, so I think it's max Kyogre. Yep. So that's fine. If we both trade Tailwinds turn 1, but I get Psychic Terrain up and I have Scarf Lele out, that's fine with me, because then I can just Psychic and then max Thundurus next turn. Yeah, they just went for Tailwind. So, you know, I could have just stayed in with Thundurus, gone for Tailwind, max Airstream, but, like, what I was nervous about, because I don't have Focus Sash here, let's say my opponent actually Brave Birds Whimsicott. Well, then I guess I could max Airstream Talonflame, but then if you're Focus Sash, that's my fear, I guess. So, they're going to Geyser here, but that's okay. Yep, Lele's going to faint, but I don't really need it around right now. In fact, let's just bring out CALYREX. I know we were talking about Max Thundurus being the star here, but I could just bring this out right now. Go for the Fling. Psychic Terrain is up as well. So I think CALYREX should just sweep through right now. So I didn't even mention like how this is a potential like play that you could make. But the idea of sacrificing to Lele or Indeedee to get a free switch in, set up that terrain. Because the thing about this CALYREX is like, I mean, I've been talking primarily about like the effectiveness of the ghost strength. The psychic strength is really strong as well. So now we're gonna get a +3 max psychic against Kyogre. That is really, really strong. And by setting up terrain, Talonflame actually can't go for Brave Bird right now. So you can Will-O-Wisp or Flare Blitz. Maybe U-Turn. I don't know if Talonflames are still running U-Turns, but they used to back in like 2014. They go for Quick Guard, but that's fine. Like, the Quick Guard doesn't even... Like, because Psychic Terrain is up, I'm not using anything against Kyogre here anyway, right? So, we get the Fling stuff off, and I think this should just win us the game, unless CALYREX somehow doesn't one-shot Kyogre with +3 max Psychic. Nice. Okay, I'll get the max off. We outspeed. Psychic Terrain's up. +3, max Mindstorm. Boom. Nice. So this is a good example of how sometimes like you want to play a little bit flexible, right? Coming into this match, like sure, Thundurus seemed like a good option, but I don't know. The main thing I was worried about is if you're Focus Sash Talonflame and, well actually if you Brave Bird me, never mind, I should have thought about that. If you Brave Bird me, like maybe it was fine to Dynamax Thundurus anyway, but now we're even in better shape with this CALYREX, so yeah. Let's see. I mean, I don't think my opponent can do anything at this point. Like I think, if you get CALYREX into a position like this, it just wins. The main thing is being able to find those positions. But I do want to talk about a lot of the mistakes that I made while practicing with this team. Because I made a lot. Like, my win rate with this, especially when I was getting into the swing of things, was not very good. So I want to talk about what you can do better. Because I think that, like, this team is so fast-paced and so hyper-offensive that even a single mistake will just cost you the game often. So let's see. I mean, they brought Rillaboom. There's really nothing they can do now, though. Let's just Mindstorm. Get that Psychic Terrain up. Okay, I mean, maybe you Brave Bird. Okay, let's say you're Banded. Banded, you Brave Bird and Grassy Glide. I still don't even think that KOs CALYREX, to be honest. So I'm just going to Mindstorm into the Talonflame. Moonblast into Rillaboom. Oh, dual Wing Beat. Okay, so... Well, actually, hey, that's the answer against Whimsicott, right? That's actually really interesting, because I was talking about how dual Wing Beat... Let's see... Glide comes out. Oh yeah, it does not do enough. Even if they were banded, I think we would have survived, so we're good here. I doubled up onto the... Or sorry, I didn't double up here. I was thinking of doubling up onto Talonflame, because I was, I was like, oh, in case you're Focus Sash, but even if you're Focus Sash, like, it's actually not that big of an issue. But if they are Sash here, this validates my fear turn 1. They end up not being Sash, but the fear was dual Wing Beat Whimsicott. Turn 1, you just KO Whimsicott, and then I max Thundurus, I max Lightning into Kyogre, I don't KO you guys are into my Thundurus, and then Talonflame Tailwinds the next turn. Like, we could actually very easily lose if that were the case, right? I guess I would max Airstream or max Lightning Talonflame, but Sash Talonflame I have seen before, so, like, you do want to potentially consider that option. So Landorus comes out, but now with Terrain being up, CALYREX just outspeeds everything. So this is what this CALYREX can do with this team. So let's just go for a Mindstorm onto Lando, and Moonblast onto... Well, I guess Landorus actually isn't really that big of a threat, so we'll Flutterby into Rillaboom. Moonblast into Landorus. I guess you could Earthquake. Yeah, it doesn't really matter, right? I don't think my opponent can come back from this with this big of a deficit, because, like, CALYREX is just guaranteed a KO. They're not AV on Landorus, it looks like, which is interesting. But that's another KO for the CALYREX here for us. So, not bad. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Landorus can't do anything in this position. So, this is a good time to start talking about, like, how to properly play with this team, because we had some good matches today, but I think a lot of them were just pretty favorable matchups. And that's one thing that this team does really well, but you're not always going to run into favorable matchups. So, I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about mistakes to prevent if you've made it this far in the video, because I made a lot of mistakes, like I mentioned, when I was practicing and getting the hang of this team. So there are a couple that I want to bring up. Let's see. Thundurus and CALYREX, for the most part, I think you do want to bring both most of the time, because often if you don't bring those are just the main offensive options, and if you don't bring one of the other and the other faints, you're just lacking in offense. Note that this Thundurus is really slow. Not really slow, but it's a lot slower than standard Thundurus. It's not max speed. If you want to edit the team, I think one edit I would make is probably just make it max speed, and actually even throw Brutal Swing onto it. I think that could be really interesting. But then I guess maybe you lower CALYREX's speed even a little more. Like, make Thundurus max speed, lower CALYREX's speed, I think could be pretty interesting. So let's just see my opponent's team here. Yeah, I really didn't think they had too many options in that one, just because they didn't have great CALYREX answers, and that's why CALYREX can be really, really strong, right? So that was one mistake I was making pretty frequently, like not bringing both of those. Be smart about how you play with CALYREX. Like, don't be afraid to max it even if it's taking a lot of damage. Be wary of speed boosts. One mistake I made a bunch was like forgetting that I had a speed boost on CALYREX and then not playing accordingly as a result. That was really bad. So don't do that. For example, like if CALYREX gets a speed boost for max Airstream, don't forget that it will outspeed Whimsicott or Tapu Lele afterwards, meaning like you can't go for the Fling stuff. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind as well. Respect Dark type Pokemon a lot. That's a really big one. I do feel like CALYREX is better played in the late game rather than the early game with this team, which is kind of what we did in that first game. And I feel like a lot of the times when I was losing, when practicing, like I would end up leading CALYREX and just not getting enough mileage out of it. So try to see if you can, position yourself for a late game sweep if you can. So those are just some of my takeaways in using this team, but we'll play another episode with this tomorrow. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time. All right, peace.